While many celebrated Christmas, Hong Kong anti-government protesters kept up with the protests. While they chanted pro-democracy slogans at seasonally decorated shopping malls, police fired tear gas to disperse crowds gathering on nearby streets. The protests in Hong Kong have been largely peaceful for much of December after pro-democracy candidates overwhelmingly won district council elections the month before. Hong Kong's pro-Beijing leaders have made no concessions to the protesters, although they acknowledge their defeat in the polls. The rallies have also turned more confrontational over the festive period. The hospital authorities said 25 people had been injured overnight, including one man who fell from the second to the first floor of a shopping mall as he tried to escape the police. To discuss more on the situation in Hong Kong, we have regional correspondent Elizabeth Law in the studio right now. Welcome, Liz.
Hi.
Now, Liz, if you could tell us, start us off, what is the situation now in Hong Kong?
Well, obviously, as you can see from the videos, it's not great. It's really not ideal. Christmas is actually quite a big holiday in Hong Kong because unlike in Singapore, we've only got Christmas Day off. They've got Christmas Eve is huge, Christmas Day, and they celebrate Boxing Day as well. This is a leftover from colonial times.
Yeah.
So, what has happened as we've seen from those clips is that on Christmas Eve, which is a big night for families to get together for dinner and all of that, protesters were going out around the streets of Tsim Sha Tsui and Mong Kok. And we saw that police were trying to disperse protesters from outside of the Peninsula Hotel, which is a really, really fancy, it's like the equivalent of the Raffles Hotel in Hong Kong. So, I mean, when you contrast the scenes of celebration with this, it's not great, but I think that sort of contrast also shows that the divide in Hong Kong right now is still very split, very divided, very angry city.
Right. Now, Liz, let's focus on a certain event. Now, police shut down a bank account linked to a group supporting protesters and arrested several activists for money laundering. What does this mean for the movement right now?
Right, okay, so maybe a little bit of background first. Okay, so this group, Spark Alliance, was set up in 2016 to support protesters. It came after the Umbrella Movement in 2014, and now protesters have been arrested and had to go for court trials. They couldn't work, and so Spark Alliance is a non-profit NGO that it was set up to help them, be it with their legal fees or be with their daily necessities, daily allowances, that sort of thing. So obviously a lot more people, because these protests this year have gone on for way longer, and so a lot more people have been turning to this Spark Alliance for help. And so they have a corporate account with HSBC.
Right.
Now, last month, HSBC had frozen their corporate account because they said that the source of money is slightly dubious and they don't know exactly where it's coming from. And so they froze their account. Now, a lot of people said that this was being targeted at the protesters, at this protest movement. But to be fair, in any jurisdiction around the world, this is something that they would have done to comply with international anti-money laundering regulations. So it's something that they have done. What this means for the movement, yes, it's going to be a little bit harder because police had previously frozen the assets of another group called the 612 Fund that was also to help protesters. So it may mean that the movement financially will be a little bit more constrained now, but I think what we have seen from the past 6, almost 7 months now is that this movement is resilient and it probably will still continue. In what form? I'm not sure. Now, Liz, so what's next for Hong Kong? I think a lot of people are wondering, right? How far into the new year can we expect protests to continue? I mean, are we looking at Chinese New Year bringing a pause to the movement or to the protests? Right. So, two things. Maybe in the more immediate future, next week, on New Year's Day, the Western New Year, there already has been a protest that has been planned by the CHRF, the Civil Human Rights Front, which is the biggest protest organizers in Hong Kong. And so far, all their protests draw huge crowds, so I think we can expect the same on New Year's Day. But as to whether or not it's going to descend into violence, as we've seen in all these other recent protests, we are not sure. In the long run, we are expecting elections for the Legislative Council next year. So it could really give this protest yet another move, and it really all remains to be seen. But we can only hope for the best.
Well, thank you so much, Liz, for coming on to the show. Really, like what you mentioned, it remains to be seen as to how this protest is going to move forward, right? Now, to read more on the Hong Kong protests, of course, you can visit our website at straitstimes.com.